Chapter 6 St. Bethany. The alarm went off as planned at 4 o'clock. No better time to check out a new hotel than the early hours of the morning. Generally, only one person will be handling the front desk, which is more likely than not be sat in the back office searching the internet. Then there is the security guard, who you can guarantee is hidden away in some secluded spot catching a bit of sleep. Put on a t-shirt and some old tracksuit bottoms, splashed my face with water and went to open the door. Bollocks. Almost tripped over my own tripwire. My own fault as I hadn't turned on the room light. Didn't want to attract attention from outside as it appeared in one of the rooms at daft o'clock in the morning or silhouette myself in the window. From the sound of the strange noises coming from other guests' accommodation, there wasn't a chance of me waking anyone. Sure, some of them must have been hunting for truffles. Talk about loud snoring. The corridor was faintly lit, the hotel probably saving on their electricity bill. Who can blame them, as most people, unlike me, are not snooping around the place at this time in the morning. Crept down the stairs and into the lobby, making my way to the reception. Nobody staffing the place as I expected. Will take full advantage of this and check with a person yesterday. Store the copy of my passport. We'll need this when we leave Sunday morning. Already had an excuse why I was behind the front desk if someone came out. I had locked myself out of my room and didn't want to disturb anyone, looking for a spare. Found it in an unlocked filing cabinet to the side of the counter. Proof security is a little lapsed at the hotel, which is good for us as we plan to bug out early Sunday. The lights to the bar and restaurant were out, the door was locked. No problem, I would investigate them later today when open. I walked back past the front desk. Spotted the receptionist in the back office sat behind a computer and resting his head on his folded arms. Probably asleep. Perfect. Made it easier for me to slip into the areas marked staff only. Several doors lead off the corridor behind the staff only door. Came to the first one. The door was open with the light on. I had found the laundry room. I need a few sets of bedding for what I have planned. We'll come back tomorrow night for them. The other rooms were storerooms of some type or other, apart from the one at the end of the corridor. Through the door, I could see in the far corner of the room, was a sofa facing a TV showing some late-night show. In the darkness, the shape of a body tucked under a blanket was easy recognizable. I guessed this would be the security guard. The last door was the staff emergency exit with a push bar to open. Suppose the hotel was not up to code when it came to HSE, as they had not installed a breakable locking device, which prevents people from using it as a thoroughfare, but still usable in an emergency. Tried to make as little noise as possible as I forced the door and let myself into the rear yard. Made sure it didn't close entirely behind me as I would need to come back this way. The back of the hotel was illuminated with a single light on the side of the building. Could see that this is where the staff and visitors parked their cars, about 20 in total. Completed a quick calculation in my head, one each for the receptionist and security guard, leaving 18 vehicles for guests as this being a 25-room establishment, calculated the place might be 3/4 full. Like the Grace Hotel, a wooden fence ran down the back of the property with the same street I walked down yesterday behind. Good news, an old shed was situated next to it, that would make it easier for us to climb over if we wanted to come this way. If we did, that light would need to be deactivated to prevent us from being highlighted. Might as well sort it now, saves time and noise later when it is not required. Brought down with me my trusty multi-tool enclosed in a rubber sheath and a small amount of fishing line. The light was powered by an electrical wire which ran down the wall leading into a junction box. Merely a case of unscrewing the front cover, loosening one of the screws which kept one of the wires in place. Tied my line to the cable, then carefully replacing the cord back in its socket without tightening the screw. Then simply put the cover loosely back on with enough hanging out that when required, all we need to do is pull the line. This, in turn, removes the wire, and hey presto, lights are out. The beauty of fishing line: if you're not aware of its presence, it is difficult to find. Of course, I had to do it all without electrocuting myself. Would look rather stupid if someone sees me lying on the floor next to a blown-out light. Not much more to be seen at the rear, so better head back indoors before our sleeping beauty wakes up. Slipped back past the employees' lounge as our security guard started to stir, through the door back into the lobby as the receptionist, fresh from his nap, came from the back office and took up position behind the front desk. Time was getting on with the first meal of the day in about an hour, just time for a quick shower and get ready for the day ahead. Not eaten since the plane yesterday, so looking forward to breakfast, but it's that rabbit food crap with the added twist of pancakes smothered in syrup. Found myself the first one in the restaurant dead on 6:30, so located a table with my back leaning against the wall, but still close to buffet-style breakfast of course. I was correct, rabbit food, been to this part of the world far too many times. Wasn't long before the dining room started to fill up. Two men dressed in pressed black trousers, clean open-necked white shirts appeared first, guessing they are here on business. 5 minutes later, they were followed by a young couple who took up a position on one of the tables close to me. Being a nosy bugger, overheard them saying that they were here for a few days before moving on to St. Halb for 2 weeks. They wouldn't go there if they knew what I had planned on that island. They may change their minds. Finished my second cup of strong coffee and made my way over to the hot plate to discover what delights awaited me. One day I'm coming over here to teach these people how to cook bacon, just like the Americans, overcooked and hard as a block of concrete. From where I come from, this is called pork scratchings. Piled my plate with an assortment of food, including the bacon. We'll keep these for a snack later. Sat back in my seat and summoned the waiter over to bring me some more coffee. From my seating position, it was possible to look straight into the lobby through the window. The bloody problem with glass, you can see both ways, and my friendly taxi driver from yesterday spotted me, came over, sat down and insisted he has breakfast with me. My protest went on deaf ears.
Not an issue, my friend, my uncle owns the hotel.
Now that may come in useful.
Was there something wrong with the Grace Hotel? Did you not like the place, Mr. Steve?
No, the place was fine. It was me getting my hotels mixed up. When I said, take me to the Grace Hotel, I meant to say the Osprey Hotel. For some reason, I had Grace on my mind. Must have been the brochure I read at the airport. So, how's business, Edward? Remembered his name from the card he gave me.
Not too bad. You need a taxi today, Mr. Steve. Please phone me.
Funny you should say that. I was going to get in touch. Need a guide for the afternoon to show me the local area.
Sure, why not? Shall we say $200?
A bit steep for a few hours, Edward.
A one-off special deal price for you, at only $100.
Okay, Edward, I will wait outside at 12 o'clock.
No, Mr. Steve, please wait in the lobby. We'll come in and collect you.
Edward finished his coffee and left, shouting.
See you at 12 o'clock.
Time is getting on, so better make a move myself. Need to find a general store that has some stuff I still required, plus needed to check the accuracy of this map. Grabbed the mobile from my room, complete with the local SIM card purchased from the airport in case Simon or George called. Exited the hotel and turned right, making my way up the high street for about 200 meters until I came to a junction in the road, turned right, and discovered a small supermarket. The place was only little, with boxes of produce piled up along one wall. The center of the shop was lined with shelving, containing an assortment of food from breakfast cereal to canned stuff. Towards the back of the store, chillers providing, among other things, cold drinks, including the local brew. Could do with a drink, so reached inside and grabbed a bottle of soft fizzy pop. Soon found some items I had been looking for: some children's clay, a box of disposable gloves, 3 sets of painter's overalls, small square batteries. A quick calculation in my head worked out I would probably need 6 of these. Behind the counter, an elderly gent sat rocking away in his chair. Good morning, sir. Don't suppose you have any small camping stove gas bottles?
Not here, my friend. Probably best visit the out-of-town store. They should be able to assist you with them. Want me to open that drink?
Hadn't noticed it wasn't the standard screw top like the ones back in good old Blighty. Yes, please. Purchased my goods, which the kind gentleman placed in a free plastic bag. Makes a change from home where the robbing bastards at the supermarkets now make cough up 20 pence for a flimsy carrier bag. Took the map out of my pocket and lined it up with the ground to get my bearings. The back street I had walked down yesterday, now 50 meters to my right. Good to know if we need to bug out to the rear of the hotel, we will need to turn left to come out here. From where I stood, the road in front and slightly to my right transverse across open fields for about 100 meters before disappearing into the forest. The map indicated that the high street ran all the way to the coast. In the opposite direction from where I had walked, the road to my immediate left was the one leading off to the small fishing port I had seen on Google Maps. Still had a few hours before Edward would pick me up from the hotel, so would check this out. Needed to find out the distance and layout of the buildings and land. The first couple of 100 meters of the street were similar to the high street, with shops of different descriptions, from clothes to bakeries lining both sides before the houses came to an abrupt stop. Parked cars occupied each side, some looking a little worse for wear, but who am I to judge? The road then made its way through open ground, with little scope for cover apart from a few old burned-out vehicles. A grassy mound was situated to my right, about 6 foot high and 30 meters long. The open ground lasted for about 100 meters before entering the forest. Now stood at the edge of the woods. From the supermarket to here had taken me 25 minutes. Deliberately strolled to give us a margin of error in the timing if we come this way on Sunday morning. Reckoned at a fast pace, calculated we would easily take off 10 minutes from the total time. Continued along the road, which twisted and turned several times for the next click. From here, the forest thinned out as it came closer to the edge, but still plenty of places for someone to set up an ambush, so not a safe place to walk. Matching the map to the ground again, I ascertained the road with all its twists and turns, in fact, made a massive curve. We'll check if a direct route existed through the forest to the harbor on the way back, or even tomorrow as the time is getting on. Came to the far end of the forest, the port still off into the distance, and Mickey telling me it was now 11 o'clock, better head back to the hotel. We'll ask Edward to run me this way later. Arrive back at the digs in time to dispose of my bag, then make my way to lobby and wait for the arrival of Edward. On entering the lobby, the receptionist called me over. Shit, maybe he had seen me this morning.
Received a call from Edward about 10 minutes ago. He is deeply sorry, but he is running 30 minutes late.
That's a relief. No problem, we'll grab a beer from the bar and wait for him. Grabbed several beers and found an empty table outside on the pavement, left of the entrance facing the shop on the other side of the street. Even managed to relax for a while. This was perfect. A few drinks in the sun, and someone else was paying. Excellent. From where I was sat, could observe up and down the road via the window opposite. Plus, anyone coming from the hotel, along with people at tables to my right. Been seated no more than 10 minutes when two youths dressed in jeans and black t-shirts walked up the street, sitting at the table closest to the right side of the entrance. Wasn't long before a taxi drew up in front of me with Edward's familiar face sticking out of the window.
Ready, Mr. Steve?
Sure am, mate. Drank the last of the beer and climbed in. Can you take me to the out-of-town store? Thinking of going fishing for a few days. Need some small gas bottles and a camping stove.
Sure, no problem, Mr. Steve.
So, Edward, tell me, what's the reason behind your name? Doesn't sound much of a Caribbean name. Looking in his rearview mirror.
Named after my grandfather who came over here to live many years ago. I think he was born in Portsmouth, wherever that is in England.
That explains a lot. How far to the store?
Not too far, about 10 minutes.
This must be the Caribbean for big. The store was about the same size as our standard supermarkets back home. Got any idea where in here I can purchase the gas, Edward?
Yes, Mr. Steve, go through the doors and walk to the end. The shop is on the right, owned by a friend of mine. Mention my name and they will give you a good price.
Is there anyone Edward doesn't know? The store wasn't huge, but seemed to be stocked with everything someone would need for a short camping or fishing trip. Found a couple of small stoves with a sign saying, "Please ask for gas" at the counter. On the way to the counter, stumbled across a medium-sized plastic water bottle along with the last two collapsible water containers. Each would probably hold around 2 liters. Perfect for George and me on our OPs, not an issue for Simon as he had the Land Rover. Nothing else I wanted from here apart from the gas. Found a woman behind the counter displaying a shiny name badge with the words, "I'm Tracy, happy to help." "Hi, Tracy. Do you have any gas bottles for this camping stove, please?"
Over by the stoves.
The sign says they are behind the counter. Maybe Tracy is not happy to help.
How many do you require?
6 should be enough. Tracy reluctantly disappeared to the back room before returning 5 minutes later, with 7 gas bottles. Can't be arsed to argue, 7 it is. Could you put them in a bag for me, please? Didn't really want the gas bottles for fishing or camping for that matter. In fact, we'll probably ditch the stove at the Grace Hotel. The boys and I will be on cold rations in the observations posts. Last thing we will want is some switched on guard noticing a naked flame in the forest. The gas bottles come with a concave bottom, making a perfect shaped charge. We will each take one on the OPs to be used as a defense if any of us start to become overrun. This is why I had purchased the clay and nails. Mix both together and stick on the bottom of the gas bottle. Instant claymore. Found Edward where I left him, which surprised me. Thought he would be off on another quick job. Didn't receive a discount. Mate, a woman going by the name of Tracy was behind the counter, not a happy bunny.
She is always like that. Where to next?
Need to go to the airport where the float plane leaves from, in the harbor. Do you know anyone who takes people to St. Hal by boat? Surprisingly, Edward, of course, had a friend that could help for a price.
No problem, Mr. Steve. They both leave from the port. You want to go straight away?
Yes, please, Edward. The port was in a small built-up area which consisted of the road running parallel with the coast. Several fishing boats were tied up against jetties jutting out to sea. A row of shops and cafes ran down one side, packed with tourists and locals, one of the reasons we will be leaving early Sunday morning. People still go fishing from here, Edward?
Yes, Mr. Steve. They go out early in the morning, then sell their catch to the cafes or on the Saturday market.
The answers I'd been fishing for. When we leave in a boat Sunday morning, we won't draw attention to ourselves, just like we are going fishing. Any good fish restaurants here you can recommend, Edward?
Yes, we can stop if you're hungry. It's owned.
Don't tell me, a relative?
No, a friend, goes by the name of Derek.
Tell you what, once we have been to the float plane and spoken to your cousin about the boat to St. Hal, we can stop at the restaurant, my treat. The float plane dock was to one end of the port, away from the fishing boats. The airport consisted of a small wooden building at the end of a jetty. A single plane was tied up at the pier. With only one daily flight, which left at 10 and the time now is 3 p.m., would surmise this was their single plane? Edward pulled up about 50 meters from the building.
Sorry, can't get any closer.
No issue, will only be a few minutes. Want to check on the cost of the flight in case we fancy going back to St. Hal after the fishing. Didn't want Edward to know what we were up to, so left him in the car. Located inside the building, an elegantly dressed woman in a black skirt and white blouse stood behind the counter and welcomed me in with a big smile. And how can I help you, sir? Unlike Tracy, this person did want to help. Could see from her name tag her name was Tara. Hi, Tara. Always used people's titles if they could be bothered to wear a badge, only manners. Fancy going over to St. Hal by boat, with a spot of fishing on the way out and then fly back. Could you please give me the cost for 3 adults?
Certainly, sir. When would you like to come back?
Not next Friday, but the following Friday. That should give us 2 weeks to complete the job.
That would be $65 each coming back on Friday at 12 o'clock. Would you like to book now, sir?
Yes, please. At least now we would now have one booked route off the island after the mission, still planning to have a plan B and C.
Excellent. That will be $195, cash or card, sir.
Cash, please. Flight tickets sorted. Now to find Edward and find out more about his mate with the boat. Found Edward near his taxi talking to a couple of old fishermen sitting on the seawall. So where's this friend of yours? Somewhere close.
Called him while you were inside. He is going to meet us at the fish restaurant in about an hour.
Does he have a boat moored in the port?
Yes, that grey one with the blue cabin. You can see it from here. He normally uses it for taking tourists out on fishing trips, so perfect for your trip as well.
Might as well go to the restaurant now. Could do with a cold beer.
No problem, Mr. Steve, you're the boss.
Derek's restaurant and bar were one of the ones we had passed on the way to the float plane, so only a short journey. From the outside, the place was painted in a pale shade of blue with 2 windows, which hung an assortment of fishing equipment. Several tables on which stood a small glass light took center stage outside the restaurant, surrounded by a wooden fence. Inside, more tables, all smartly laid out, ready for the next batch of customers. From the walls hung pictures of German cities with many other objects from Germany as well. Along the right wall was the bar, mounted behind a photo with the word Zum Kustal, which I later found out meant cow shed in German. The picture was of Derek's old house before he moved to St. Bethany. Edward parked the car, plunked our arses at the tables outside to wait for his friend with the boat. Derek soon appeared with 2 large beers. Thought I would try my German.
Dankeschön.
You're welcome, mate.
Needn't have bothered with the German. The bastard spoke better English than me.
Can I get you 2 gents? Anything to eat?
Yeah, I'll have whatever that is. Pointing to the menu. What you having, Edward? My treat?
A sandwich will be fine, the wife is cooking later.
Perfect timing. Just finished eating when a man in green shorts and a white t-shirt turned up and greeted Edward.
Mr. Steve, this is Joe, a friend of mine who owns the fishing boat.
Nice to meet you. Joining us for a beer?
Yeah, I'll take a small one with you.
That is a beautiful boat you have, Joe. Edward pointed it out to me earlier. Is she fast?
Fast enough, I should get you over St. Halb in around 1 hour. Edward told me on the phone where you wanted to go, am I right?
Just looking for the best way, not sure to go by float plane or sea.
We'll give you a reasonable price, only $200 if you pay up front.
Not a bad price, worth considering. Can I let you know in the morning?
Sure, no problem, give Edward a call, he will let me know.
Finishing his beer, Joe walked off in the direction of the port.
Mr. Steve, would you mind if I leave you here for about an hour? Received a text from my wife, I forgot to go and collect her medication this morning.
Sure, I've nothing else planned today. See you in a little while. Might as well acquire another beer. Made my way inside and took up position on one of the stools facing Derek as he poured several drinks from the pump. Derek, another one of those beers, please, and have one yourself.
Cheers, I will. Has Edward left you here?
Man's got some trouble on the domestic front and had to go back to do something for his wife. He's picking me up in an hour. How long have you known Edward? He gives the impression of an okay type of guy.
Moved here a few years back and known him since then. You're right, he is a nice bloke, but don't trust him too much. Apart from the taxi, he is also part of the gang that runs, shall we say, the black market activities on the island.
Thank fuck I hadn't told him anything about my real plans. So, Derek, what brings you to the sunny island of St. Bethany?
Left the British military while in Germany and decided to stay there for a while, opening up a local pub. Stayed there for 20 years before giving that up and moving to St. Bethany about 3 years ago with the family.
So, what regiment in the army? Personally, I spent 10 years in the 3rd Battalion, the Royal Green Jackets. Talk about a small planet, turns out Derek was in the same regiment but in the 2nd Battalion, at the same time. So, where were you based in Germany? Something I already knew, testing him to ensure he was genuine.
Spent 5 years in Paderborn, Steve.
Seeing as we were brother in arms, Derek, we better drink to that, as they say. Beer, said the rifleman.
Thanks, I'll drink to that.
Says Derek.
Overheard Joe saying something about taking you over to St. Hal. Be careful, some people he's attempted to take over never reach their destination. When are you thinking about going over?
Sunday morning. 2 friends from the UK will be joining me here on Saturday. We have some work to do on the island.
Tell you what, I have a fast boat, slip me a couple of hundred, and I'll take you over and collect you when you've finished your job, no questions asked.
I'll drink to that. I say, downing half a glass of beer. I'll pop in on Saturday with Simon and George to discuss more.
Make it the afternoon, I'm not in the morning.
Decided, as I was on a Caribbean island and the sun was out, it would be a waste sitting inside. Grabbed another beer and proceeded to sit at the table outside I had occupied earlier. Was not long before Edward pulled up in his taxi alongside the curb.
Sorry, it took so long, Mr. Steve.
No need to worry, Edward. Had a good time with Derek in the bar. Take me back to the hotel, please. The taxi pulled up outside the hotel. The youths from earlier had left. Was getting out of the car when Edward turned around.
Call me in the morning, Mr. Steve, if you need a cab and my friend's boat.
Will do, mate. Mickey was telling me it was now 1900 hours, too early to retire, so might as well grab a few more beers and sit outside and view the sunset. Had to remind myself not to drink too much, need to keep a clear mind, plus I still needed to check out the layout of the restaurant. Talking of which, I had the munchies again, an excellent sign of too much alcohol partaken. Time to grab a snack and take it back to my room, still had some things to do before the boys arrived tomorrow. Replaced the tripwire across the door, same as last night. Unfolded the knife from my multi-tool and slipped it under the pillow. You can never be too careful. Needed some shut-eye before finishing the plans. Must have been a combination of sun, sea, and beer, but didn't wake up until well after midnight. Oh well, the planning could wait until the morning. Not much to do today until Simon and George arrived from the UK. Might as well call Edward and do a spot of sightseeing. If nothing else, we'll be able to get acquainted with the full layout of the island. My timepiece was telling me we still had 1 hour or so to breakfast, so time to kill. A check of the equipment confirmed that the only thing missing apart from weapons was the radios. Hope the boys don't forget them.